Hello again. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Noble Father podcast. I am your host, Theophilus, and today is January the 13th of 2025. This is officially the second episode for the new year. And one of the things that I want to talk about today especially, is what is the most important thing a father can do in the life of a child? Like what is the single most important thing, right? Obviously, if you ask, myself, I guess maybe it might vary between different people. Single-handed, the biggest thing for my personal journey is to guide my children in the way that they should go. And this includes their relationship with their Heavenly Father. I am merely a earthly father to my children, and my role in their life is really to direct them to God, and and to pass on, through generations, who God is, and what He is about, and how important a relationship with Him is. We have good examples of what it looks like to forget. Right, the Israelites were a great example. Right, freed from slavery. And at the first doubt, right, easily created an idol and started to worship it, and forgot, right? And because of that forgetting, and because of that negligence, or willful blindness, even, God punished them, and they were left to wander, right? And so, I don't want that for my children. That's my own personal thing. But when I go to think about it, let's just say, if there are people who are listening to this that are not believers or don't have a faith background, what would be the most important thing? I would say that and as a son that grew up under a father myself, I would say the most important thing is being present. And that whole concept of being present is something that never gets lost on me. When I see my kid walk to school in the mornings, and actually, my wife and my daughter are right now in China, and it's just been my son and myself here. He's been walking to school and coming back by himself, and every day when he walks out of the door, I'm there to watch him until he goes out of sight. And it's amazing because every time he looks back, he sees his dad. Like I want to be there for those moments he looks back. I don't want him to look back and for him to see that I'm no longer there, and he just doesn't want to look back anymore because dad's gone. Daddy had more important things to do. I don't want that to be a thought. And so I'm going to milk that. I'm going to hold on to that as much as I can, and be as present as I can. And really, that's what I said about growing up. I had this. My son asked me, growing up, what did you want to do? And I told him the story of how I don't remember what age I was. I think I was like 6 or 7, or maybe even his age, 9 years of age. That I remember very vividly being called to be a present father, and it was just really like deep-rooted feeling of just this knowing that I wanted to be a present father growing up. And that has guided my decisions all the way through life. I would say, did I do dumb things on the way to that? Yeah, absolutely, I did. But when it came time to be a father, I knew I wanted to be a very present one, and that's led me in so many different ways, right? From not wanting to be a police officer, from not wanting to stay in ministry, running a business that would require me to not be home as well, right? And doing trades, what have you. It has guided my every decision. And even more recently, right, picking up the 4Runner to go off-roading with my son, and with my daughter, with my family. Man, this new year has been one in which we've gone on so many adventures already with the 4Runner, going to places we never thought imaginable. Climbing rocks and crawling them, and learning how to fix the truck. All of it really sprang from wanting to be more present with my child, as a father for myself, and so I really wanted to share like I don't consider myself the expert on being present. I do my best, and I guess that's my standard. Could I do it better? Absolutely. But I want to share personally, what I feel are 5 major points of being present that really guide me and has really paid dividends in how I am as a father to my children. And I really hope that, if you're listening to this and you're a father yourself, is that you walk away with something for yourself. What does it mean for you to be more present for your children? Obviously work might get in the way of that. For myself, this business that I'm building out is, I'm building it in such a way that enables me to be present whenever I need to. My kids will come to me periodically while I'm working, and they'll ask for coloring pages, and I'll, get off to print them a coloring page, or they want to play this board game together, or, they want to do this or that together. We have to make those decisions in the moment. Being present means making that decision right then and there, not pushing it off. My kid is already 9 years of age. You hear me say this again over and over again, is that you got 18 summers, right? My son's halfway to that. Next year he'll be 10. And then we'll be on the downhill towards the rest of his 18 summers. And so I want to be as present as I can. And so recently we've been going out, doing a lot of these treks out into this beautiful backyard that we have here. Areas that I would not be able to go with my previous vehicle, and trying to be as present as I can with that. And it's amazing how much time we're enjoying, casting a fishing rod, or just looking out to the just like the views, and taking in lookouts, and seeing wonderful nature, and enjoying the company, each other's company. My son is embracing being present as well. Learning to fish is a very interesting skill. And it's not like as soon as you cast, you get your bites right away. You have to, there's certain nuances and experiences that need to be, skills that you need to pick up in order to do it well. And I've noticed this about my son. He can like really distill and juice an experience for its positivity, rather than being attached to an outcome. He's so unattached. Here's a good example. Recently bought him a fishing rod. He's under the age of 16, so he can fish without getting a license. Purchase some stuff to go fishing, a fishing rod, the weights, the bobbers, the hooks, whatever. He'd go and grab the worms and stuff from our backyard here. And we'd go casting a fishing rod, at the local lakes here and the rivers. And he always says the same thing. He always says, like, "Daddy, can we just go cast the fishing rod?" And I remember we when we first went out, we were at the lake, caught nothing, not even a bite, didn't even see a fish, nothing. And yet he remarked that he was so happy to be able to just be out there having fun casting the fishing rod. Casting the fishing rod was the joy of the activity for him. And this reminds me of the quote, right, where they say, well, the reward of the journey is not the destination. The reward of the journey is the journey itself, or the company that you keep. And when I hear my son say that at 9 years of age, I just think of myself, 9 years of age, like, what was I even thinking about, right? I didn't have those thoughts. I don't think I had those thoughts. And I don't fault my dad for this, right? Like I like I say on this podcast all the time, I didn't get a lot of those experiences with my dad, and that's caused me to be the father that I am today. So I don't look at that with any kind of resentment or hold any kind of grudge for it. But this gives you a sense of like how important it is, our leadership, of how it is we're being present in our lives affects our children. And so let me go into this. I want to go into the five tips that I would give, and I'm going to give a bonus one at the end, because it's such an amazing walk. Fatherhood is probably one of the most selfless things a man can do. And I really feel like the earthly experience of living this human life as spiritual beings, selflessness is this theme that goes throughout all of our lives. Love is a selfless act too, I feel. And a parent's love, a father's love, a mother's love is about as selfless as it's going to get. And so, I want to also, give some Bible verses. I love the wisdom that the Bible distills, and it always tides me over. It's like, why do we have the wisdom that we have in our world? A lot of it comes from the Bible. A vast majority comes from the Bible. Matthew 6:34 says, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." And so true, right? I have so many things going on in my life, and it's so easy to get bogged down by it. And what's crazy is that if you have peace, then you know where you're going and what you're at, and where you're at, God knows exactly where you're at. So for myself, I've definitely felt that. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." And I really like self-control at the end there, because you have control. You get to decide what you do in that moment. Last week we spoke about what guides you. What is the spirit that guides you? I hope it's power and love and self-control. Psalm 118:24 says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." We're not promised tomorrow, right? We say that all the time. I might say 18 summers with my son, but who knows, next year I might get hit by a car, or, might suffer some kind of ailment, and, I have 1 year left to live. And then what? We don't know how long we have left. And so let's go into those tips. I really love talking about tips. So being present, number one, prioritize quality time. It's very hard in our busy schedule to find the time to do things together. And, with work, and man, I don't like, if you don't face any kind of resistance in your life with bills you got to pay, with, interpersonal conflicts, family relational problems, trauma that you're dealing with. For myself, like legal troubles that, just people who are just incessant on, taking from you. Life has so many things that comes our way, right? Just like Matthew 6:34 says, right? Anxious, tomorrow has its own anxieties for itself. There's just so many things that are going to keep coming, right? This person's going to, come after you, or, this friend has a health battle now, major health battle, or, your dishwasher broke, or your car breaks down. There's so many things that will come and take you away. And so prioritizing quality time. Like I said, my daughter and my wife are away. And so my son and I, every weekend, whenever we get the chance and opportunity, we've been taking the truck out and just being present with one another, prioritizing that quality time. We went out Saturday, got stuck out somewhere, almost past the point of no return. We turned back around, made it out safely, and then went back out literally the day after that, which was Sunday yesterday, with a friend. Got to prioritize those. Use your calendar. Set a time. Say every Friday night, because we don't do anything, let's sit down together and play a board game together. Or Tuesday nights is cheap movie night. Every month, let's go to one movie together on a Tuesday, and set that, right? And it's interesting, because this goes into the third tip. I'm going to jump there because it's a great segue, is to create traditions. Creating traditions it's something that you grow up with as well, right? My family, for example, growing up, when we came back from Venezuela, we were in Canada here. My dad was pastoring at a church, and there was a tradition in our family to go with one of our best friends' families and watch movies at their place. And man, it was amazing tradition. It brought our families together closer. My brother and myself had friends with them. They had two sons, and we were great friends for a very, very long time. And traditions is so important, for myself and my son, right? We've created traditions of wanting to go to Wild Man every year. Wild Man is our men's retreat at our church, and we make it to a point to go. Sleep in the car, sleep in the cabin, sleep wherever it is. Just going. And really enjoy those traditions. And your kids don't forget those things, right? My kid's never going to forget casting a fishing rod with his dad. He's never going to forget that we almost got stuck one time. He's never going to forget that we, had amazing adventures. Just it'll never go away. He'll keep this forever. And you know what? He'll want to probably replicate it with his son. Hopefully one day if he gets a son, or with his daughter as well. I'm hoping to do this with my daughter. We've already gone rock climbing with my daughter as well. Number two, sorry, I'm going to go 1, 3, and then 2 here. You seek their contribution. So one of the things about going on these journeys, and this past weekend was a good example, is like we got to the point on one of our trips, yes, on Saturday, where we went down this road, very, very rocky. Didn't look like regular vehicles would go onto it. We had no concerns about whether the vehicle could make it, besides like the big giant rocks that were in our way. We came to a point where my son was getting sick. His stomach was not feeling well, and he also needed to use the bathroom. It's another story. And I'm not talking about number one. And so we got to this point where we're already on this journey, probably like an hour into this trail, and the rocks up ahead on the road, it just looked really, really sketchy. We had no idea where we were. We're probably halfway down to where we wanted to head down to. We got scared, and we were just feeling like maybe it's time to turn back. I was starting to stress out. We were out there by ourselves. We had no recovery gear whatsoever. That's when I, turned to my son and asked him, I was like, hey, how are you doing? And instantly my son said, I want to go home. And so as a father, you got to take, and I hope you do this with everything, is just look at everything. What are the factors? What is the truth of this situation right now? Okay, my son is not feeling very well. He just went to the bathroom for the first time in the great outdoors. It was not an enjoyable experience for him, obviously. Very humbling, obviously, to have to do that. It's a very normal, natural thing for us to do, but still, it impacted him. He was not feeling very well. And so, okay, we got this journey ahead. We don't know what's around the next bend. We don't have recovery gear. We're by ourselves. If we get into trouble, it's probably a 3-hour walk back the other way to get to a place where we would see other vehicles, let alone get a signal to getting help. If we get a flat, we would be in even worse trouble. So what do we do? Well, I asked my son. My son said, Daddy, I want to go home. And we made the collective decision to turn back around. Now, that's not just in dire situations. I'll also ask him, hey, Davian, like, what do you want to eat for lunch today? Or, hey, what do you think about if we go here to cast a fishing rod? Seeking their contribution includes them. If it makes them feel like they have a vested interest, they have a voice, and they are credible, and they are worth listening to, and their opinions are valued. And so just the principle of being present in that sense grows their leadership as well. It takes into account what they want out of the situation, and learning to teach your kids to ask for what they want is a very important thing. This is a topic for another day as well, of like boundaries. If we don't know how to dictate what we want, and then we get hurt because we didn't express it. Many people these days go to push their resentment towards other people, and what they didn't realize is that they didn't set the boundary. They didn't tell people what they wanted, and when they got hurt in that area, it's like, dude, you didn't even say anything. Anyways, that's an aside. Number 4, practice gratitude. One of the things on our trip is I always say this, and I always remark and say, Lord, like, wow, what a beautiful view. What a beautiful backyard we live in. Wow. So amazing that we get to drive this 4Runner out. Wow, Lord, thank you for good friends who teach us how to fix our vehicle and now are leading us through different trails that we've never taken before. These experiences, or these people who have recommended us a spot and we go and check it out, and it's absolutely splendid and beautiful. Always practicing gratitude and showing my son what it means to be grateful. And he's gotten into the art of that, of understanding, wow, Lord, like, wow, Daddy, thank you for taking me on this adventure. Or, wow, this is, thank you for getting me this fishing rod. Whatever it is, practice gratitude in your, because that's in the moment. There's nothing more present than being grateful for what you have right now. If you're thinking about struggles in the future, you're thinking about trauma from the past, thinking about gratitude really tides you over to remind you to be present. It's a mindfulness act. Thinking about gratitude is a mindfulness act. Number 5 is lead by example, and leading by example is important, right? How we have relationships with people, right? Yesterday when we went out, I after church, went to go talk to a friend of ours, the friend that really helped us fix up the vehicle. I mean, in its entirety, about our journey on Saturday. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to go back out there together?" And obviously not to impose it, like, "Hey, like maybe you should check with your wife just to make sure that it's okay for us to go." And got to go ahead, and we went out together. And what I want to say about that is the relationships that we keep and how we foster those relationships. I'm sure it's not lost on my son. My son will see the value of good relationships, of a mentor, right? Because this gentleman is older than I am, and I look up to him as I do a son to a father. He's the way he's guided us and mentored me is like it was such a time, like for such a time as this in my life. And the relationship and the friendship that we've gotten to build is amazing. And I want my son to see what good friendship looks like, and not like surround himself with people that are like crabs in the bucket that just drag you down. And they just want to, help you. They want to help you get out. They realize that if you get out, they get out too. And that's such an important thing. If you don't lead in your relationship in your example as a father, you're not very present. And your kids dwell and thrive in the present. So the bonus tip that I want to give, this is number 6, is debrief together and improve. Debrief together. Saturday, when we got stuck out, it was a really nerve-wracking experience. We kind of got to this when we were doing our turnaround, because these roads are like super, super narrow. We had to like do this like weird little kind of, 50-point turn. There were rocks that could break and destroy our vehicle, and we would be stuck there and hooped. It was a nerve-wracking experience. At one point, we had so much load on one of the tires. I got out to look at the truck, and I thought that the tires were flat, and we just thought we just have to go. We need to go. So we started making our way out. It was a emotionally charged experience, and I was really freaking out. I was saying prayers out loud. I was like, "Lord, please help us get out of this situation." My son probably felt that in his bones. And as we're driving out, we debriefed together. And, I asked him, I was like, what could we have done better? What could we have avoided, right? Right. Not going out by ourselves, planning our trips better. I'm a very spontaneous person, so it's very easy for me to get lost in these plans, and then make new plans, and then we're in trouble. And so debriefing with your kid, and then what is it we do to improve? How do we change? And this goes for traditions as well, is that if something didn't work out well, don't do it again. Don't repeat it thinking that it's not going to happen again. Improve on it together, talk about it together, and figure out what's the best way to go about it. You better believe that we're not going to take any more of these long jaunts onto hidden paths and trails without friends with recovery gear. That's just part of the experience, is to not do that. Of course, when we have the recovery gear, that's a very different story. Debriefing with your kid, again, includes them, and it also shows them leadership and makes them think about their situation to want to improve on their own lives, make it a practice in their lives to show them this is an important skill. Okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? What could we have done to prevent it? What could we have done to do better? For kids, this is unbelievable life experience. My son has done more growing in the beginning parts of 2025 than most 9-year-olds, I'm willing to bet. And that's just part of being present. Being present with them allows them to grow. Stressing them about what's to come is not good for their brains. Imagine if my wife and I were getting a separation. Imagine we were getting a divorce. Can you imagine what my kid's thinking about, or what your kid is thinking about? That future where mom and dad are not living together, and we have 2 separate houses, and we can't even do Christmas and birthdays and Thanksgivings and holidays together. That is anxious for tomorrow. So how do kids thrive? Being in the present. Why did I want to be a present father? Because my dad was not as present as I would have wanted and would have liked. And honestly, thinking back to it, probably it's a measure that'll never be hit. Even if my dad was present, I would never get enough of my dad. And I know that there's going to come a day where I'm going to miss him and that I wish that I did more with him. And that's just the nature of life, right? And so hopefully these tips guide you well. I hope that you take this for yourself. How can I be more present? What works for me may not work for you. And I hope that you take what's best, what works for you, and just go and live, right? We do not know when we are going to depart this world. It could be tomorrow. It could be a year from now. It could be 30 years from now. Be present right now like you're not present, like you're not promised tomorrow. And make those memories. Show your children the way they should go. And in the future, they will not stray from it. That's also in the Bible, by the way. So if you're listening to this and you're a first-time father, or you're a first-time listener, and you're a father that's looking for community, we have a wonderful community. We're over on Discord. We do weekly meetups. We have monthly masterminds. We have annual retreats. This year, we're going to be in San Antonio. We are going to have a bunch of guys all gather in San Antonio. We're going to spend time together, enjoying each other's company. And it's really about taking back the world one father at a time. And so if you're interested in that, reach out to me. I'm like an open book. Thank you for joining me again. Remember, we are not promised tomorrow. So be present and stay noble. Bye for now.